Outer Wilds, a game you must have seen splattered across the critique circles of the internet. I first found out about Outer Wilds in its wonderful review done by SkillUp during his Top 10 2019 list. As someone who is always up for new game experiences, I picked it up, and like many players, I was absolutely transfixed by the game. A game that demands you to navigate your curiosity of a solar system, a world that is about the size of a puddle but deep as an ocean, setting out every 22 minutes to find new clues and piece together the puzzle of the universe before the sun explodes. Every run promises and delivers a new clue if you follow the breadcrumbs, and they usually end with the sun exploding after hearing some of the most beautiful, melancholic music to ever grace a game. It's such a genius concept for a video game, and it harkens back to a special game like Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, where you race against time to save the world from a calamity. The rest of the script on Outer Wilds has already been written. Since its release, there has been countless videos and essays about how miraculous it is. I struggled with the idea of writing my own video about it, but here I am. Today, I want to talk about the new addition to the game from Mobius Digital, and that is the excellent Echoes of the Eye DLC. Echoes of the Eye is a departure, but also a familiar return to the base game. It has very humble beginnings, where you turn on the game again, and the only clue you have is there's a new exhibit in the museum. When you walk up to it, you will find a small display talking about a signal tower on the home planet that picked up suspicious images and a signal from a deep space satellite. This eventually leads you down a simple clue of an image of a shadow emerging in front of the sun at 40 degrees on a deep space satellite. And when you open your space map again, you find a new satellite on the map to navigate to far out in the deep space. Upon arriving, you see a degree counter on the side, and with some patience, you will see the sun getting covered in shadow in the distance. A flyover to the shadow, and you are transported to a strange alien craft known as the Stranger. A open space hangar similar to that of Star Wars, you can fly into, and a door entry ahead. Inside this room is a strange device and door mechanism in shadow, but you naturally can turn on your flashlight to see more. And that sends the mechanism moving, teaching us the first major rule of the puzzles ahead. Light activates and deactivates the tech of the Stranger's many mechanisms. Past this door, we find ourselves at the foot of similar tech, and then this happens. This moment was nothing short of magical. Not much had ever been shown to us since the announcement of the DLC, and for the developers to hide this reveal is to be greatly appreciated. From this point onwards, everything about the DLC is unknown to the player. Now we are left with a raft and a river that flows to our Halo world. The possibilities of what's to be discovered is almost overwhelming. I remember looking at the other towns and buildings down the river and being extremely excited to have so many runs ahead of me, checking every nook and cranny of this world. And if you've watched this far into the video and this interests you, I seriously consider you stop watching, go and play the DLC, and return to this video. The general approach to the next leg of the adventure is simple. I got to ride this raft down river and check every corner of this Halo world to start understanding what's going on here. Who are the aliens who created this place? Why is this ship here? How does this all fit in with the main story? And why is it called Echoes of the Eye? Much like the main game, I ended up making many discoveries out of general curiosity, and some just being at the right place at the right time. For example, on my first run, much like many others, I explored the first town and found alien text which I could not read. A complete far cry from the information gathering in the first game, but I found the slide room and the slides upstairs. A few minutes go by and you'll find the shrine tower and the lanterns, and you realize you must put them into the slide projector, and you're given the first glimpses at the past and how exactly this expansion chooses to deliver its story. They opted for beautifully crafted slides that you find and project that tell the story of these strange aliens and world. These slides range from tragic, creepy, to hopeful. Armed with this info, I was excited to find more of these, until I heard a very loud bang and my controller started vibrating. I moved outside the slide room to see the dam had broke and the water was rushing towards me. Before I knew it, all of the town was washed under. The time mechanic for this place will be a race against time before the dam breaks to find all the info you can before the water level takes over. Now, I could summarize the remainder of the events of the DLC, but then we'd be here for hours. But I'd rather care to shed light on a few more discoveries that left me with my jaw wide open and recaptured that sense of wonder that the first game did so well. Also on that first run inside the Stranger, when the dam struck the first town, I swam over to the shrine building once again and saw that one of the painting windows was open, a hidden room that led me to discover the corpses of the strangers beneath this shrine, all gathered around what looks to be a fire and holding devices that appear to be lanterns. On a subsequent run, I figured out to remove the lanterns from the photos to reveal the hidden door, another light-triggered mechanism on the ship, a simple but effective game design that reveals rules to the player without saying a word. With enough curiosity and time, you can figure out a lot on the Stranger in possibly unplanned ways. Like, it doesn't take long to find the image projected on the wall showing the way inside the vault, for example. You simply swim underneath a admittedly very creepy submerged vault to find yourself inside at the forefront of the real vault in an ominous green fire just like the shrine buildings. It's a funny story because I got to the vault late with the artifact thinking I had to interact with it but couldn't get anything to work, and I wanted to reset my run, so like any gamer, I jumped into the fire and died to restart, only to wake up from that in a dark dream world. This is where I jumped out of my chair. Awakening in this place, I ran around, found the vault, and saw the vision. I even ran past the alarm totems, not even thinking much of it at the time. I experienced one of the 3 major puzzle solutions to the final puzzle, and I didn't even think anything of it until much later, armed with the knowledge of the 3 hidden archives, which I also find later in the DLC. This is where the DLC gets very, very interesting and inventive. You eventually figure out you can bring an artifact to these shrine rooms and doze off, which leads you to a darkness version of the current level, where these owl people patrol and guard what is here. These levels are pretty controversial for the community online, especially the Reddit. Many people did not like the shift to horror with these levels. I have to admit, when I first got jump scared by the owls, I did not want to go back to that level at all.
Jesus Christ.
I'm reminded of Subnautica, where I didn't want to risk shitting my pants quite literally to find more clues. Much to my surprise, the remaining 2 other Dreamworld sections didn't feature the same horror as the first one. What gets interesting is eventually you'll exhaust the information you can gather at the real world and Dreamworld, and you're left with a vision of a secret door where a stranger walks into after turning out the lights. This leads him somewhere. This type of video clue challenges the information that you already have on the real world and the dream world and makes you wonder, how do you get that outcome? But of course, like every puzzle game, the solution is quite simple. It's a combination of turning off lights and setting things in motion in the real world, which eventually opens up the secret room. You walk in the secret room to find a classroom with 3 images of other secret chambers located on a bird's eye view back on the Stranger. Puzzles like these remind me so much of Myst and Riven, the classic puzzle games developed by Cyan Worlds. I played these games for the first time recently, and I see now how they pioneered the genre of puzzle games, creating the idea of using player memory and repetition to teach rules and concepts about a new world, all without using much text or explanation. I highly recommend these classics, and I couldn't help but think about them as I was playing through Echoes of the Eye, especially Riven, where you're tasked with solving the puzzles of a whole civilization on an island with little to no text or any preconceived knowledge of anything. You're tasked the same here in Echoes of the Eye. Just like Riven, by the end of your journey, you will have a deep understanding of the society and its various technology, and most of all, you have an emotional connection with their place in the universe, much like we did with the Nomai in the base game. Before reaching the emotional crescendo this DLC offers, we are tasked with solving the final puzzle of the expansion. We find the vault locked up in the dream world by the real-world location of the vault under the river. At this location, there are 3 totems that must be extinguished to release the binds of the vault. Back in the hidden classroom, we found images of 3 hidden rooms on the stranger. Upon visiting these locations, you will find more slides that show how to reach 3 hidden locations within the dream world. This is the final leg of the DLC, and it calls into question all the experience you've had so far. These puzzles cannot be finished or found without the information gathered so far, but I'm sure some people solve them with a bit of luck and curiosity. The solutions that come involve you finding out there is invisible walkways between locations in the dream world levels, a hidden raft system that connects all the levels just like the real world. After using a few hidden rules, you eventually find your way to these hidden archives. The first hidden archive you find shows an owl place down his lantern and walk away from it, severing his link to the simulation, and what is revealed is a Matrix world to view. This is another jaw-dropping moment this expansion gives us. Directly after viewing this slide, you can put down your own lantern and walk away from it to reveal a whole new way to view the dream world levels. Now every dream level in the game can be seen in an entirely new way, showing us pathing, hidden walkways, and even highlighting the patrolling owls. And therefore this makes their place in the levels feel much more like chess pieces on a board rather than terrifying enemies that we want to avoid like we did earlier. You can now simply place down a lantern and scout out ahead and approach easily, bypassing the horror we once felt. The best part of these puzzles is back at the Vault's dream world, where there is 3 combination puzzles that you must solve. But at each and every corner of the DLC, when you find a possible solution to those, with the matching puzzle icon, you will open these doors to always find them burnt out, and every piece of alien text can never get transcribed. The big revelation of this DLC is that instead, the solutions to opening the vault come from learning forbidden knowledge on how to glitch the systems to get to your own solutions. Like falling under the level through the raft loading moments to walk behind the center totem and turn it off. Or even turning on the matrix to move an invisible platform to where you want it, not ever knowing the combination solution. In fact, you'll never find the actual combination solution within the levels of this DLC, but you will get these glitches beforehand. But the final solution, in a very Outer Wilds fashion, is extremely tragic. We find a final slide showing us a stranger die before entering the simulation, and then, and only then, are they able to bypass the red alarm totems. This solution hit me like a ton of bricks, because the only way I can solve the final lock is dying, jumping into the green fire, and then entering the simulation, and then being stuck in the simulation forever. Armed with the final truths, I set out for my final run and removed all 3 locks in the proper order I thought I could do them. I had an inkling idea of what would be ahead. Walking deep into this chasm within the vault, we find a light and a hand emerge. It's a last surviving stranger in the simulation. We cannot speak to him, just like we cannot read their language, but he holds out a staff and turns it on, a vision staff seen earlier in the DLC. I should honestly just let this sequence play for what it is, and to me this sequence is truly why Echoes of the Eye is so special. Seeing the story of the stranger and then for us to show him our story and the story of the Nomai puts all of our existences together and really emotionally ties the entire game and its DLC, and doesn't make it feel like it's just a latched on. It's more of an essential part of the game now. The three races are different than the other, but after the same common goal of survival and meaning. The strangers went down a path of fear, not like the Nomai. They were so blinded by the fear of the Eye and the eventual destruction of the universe, they set out to do everything in their power to stop its signal and build a way they can live on past it. Their fear and seclusion was totally selfish, but thanks to the prisoner briefly turning off the signal jammer, the Nomai were able to discover its source and set forth the events of the main game and instituting the time loop. A unlikely meeting of three alien races who all shared common goals of survival, hope, and discovery, trying their absolute hardest to avoid calamity, but in the end, gathering hands together to watch their final goodbye. The two true endings, we see the prisoner and the traveler living on together in the simulation, not alone anymore. And within the main game's Eye of the Universe ending, we invite the prisoner to join us around the fire for our last song. All these emotions cross your mind and you just sit there and wonder, how the hell can a space puzzle exploration game hit us on such an existential level? I have to say thanks to the team at Mobius Digital for bringing us back to this world and letting us experience something new. I gotta be honest, I never thought we'd get a chance to go back, but we did. Thanks for watching.